Hi, I'm Sarah Bradbury from The Upcoming. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me. Huge congrats on this show. I think Dennis just seems to have this absolute talent for creating these really twisty, turny, edge of your seat thrillers with fascinating, morally ambiguous characters. What is it that you liked so much about this script and his writing in general?
I think you just answered it right there. I mean, what an incredible opportunity to do all these calisthenics of the mind and to sort of try to bring them off the page and onto the screen. It's an actor's dream to be able to play such extremes. And so I was beyond grateful to get to dip my toe into this world.
And Freddy, I think he's described as, the loneliest man on the planet. What was your starting point with this character?
I didn't know where to start because it's so extreme. I don't know anybody who's had a life like Freddy's. I couldn't even pretend to imagine what sort of trauma he might have gone through. I never thought I could even understand it. And so rather than trying to figure out and do research about that life and pretend that I could understand it, I just sort of let my imagination go within the circumstances that were on the page. And that became the starting point, sort of releasing that burden of ownership, of trying to own that history, knowing that I could never own it. And so I have this motto: sometimes when you let go of expectations, you can experience the divine. And so there's plenty of times where we're just playing and I would surprise myself with what was coming out, not because I just hadn't mapped it out. It's just sort of being free to play and discover.
As a character, we both fear him, but we also feel for him. So how did you want to perhaps strike that balance between, leaning into a villainous side, but also, fostering empathy at the same time?
I don't think he thinks of himself as a villain. I think he thinks of himself as a victim as he tries to make amends or tries to reconcile or reach out or try to do the right thing. He actually just makes things worse. But he doesn't think he's trying to make things worse. He thinks he's trying to fix things or make things better. And Jean-Michel Basquiat, this great painter, once said that creating fire is like the greatest cry for help. And I think that, the two serial arsonists in this show have been through a lot of trauma, and they build fires as a way of crying out for help.
And definitely the way fire is captured in the show, it's both literal and metaphorical. It's both beautiful and horrific. What was it like shooting some of these scenes?
Hot. It was hot. There's one scene where I have to light a bonfire, and they had given me a mark on the ground, and I was supposed to just hit that mark. But as an actor, sometimes you're always trying to push the edge, and so I took a foot further than the mark, and then my forehead just got singed while we were doing the take. But I held my ground, trying to get through the shot because I knew it was going to be amazing. And when they said cut, I was like, ah! Yeah. So it definitely brought another element to the shoot. Yeah.
And arguably, you could say that the way Freddy is a result of kind of systemic failure. He's someone who's sort of fallen between the cracks. So in what ways do you think that people can take away, a message about that, it's important to look after everyone in society so that we don't have outcomes like what's happened with Freddy?
Yeah, there's a saying that, you can carve out your circumstances, and sometimes your circumstances carve you out. And I think in Freddy's case, the circumstances have carved him out and left him with, a hollow, empty shell. He's reduced to nothing. And we're in a situation now where the people in the margins are being further marginalized, not supported, discarded almost. There will be consequences. We can't just brush lives under the carpet because there will be consequences. Unfortunately, that's part of the story, is what we see in this. You can't brush things aside because it always comes back to haunt you. And I think that's what's so compelling about the show, is that people are trying to push whatever pain or loss behind them, but it keeps coming back to bite them. And how do you break that cycle?
Very well put. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me. Huge congrats on the show and your performance. And I can't wait for everyone else to see Smoke. Thanks so much.
Thank you.